Welcome back to From Nine to Mom.
where we discuss balancing the 9 to 5 hustle with the beautiful chaos that we call motherhood. And today, I'm pretty excited about this conversation as I sit here and drink my diet soda. We're going to talk about gut health with Kyle. Kyle, Rick, welcome to the podcast. But I got to do a little intro about you guys. So, Kyle's the founder of Club Gevity. He's a human optimization expert focused on gut health and longevity. And I know that sounds crazy, but after talking to Kyle, it truly is what you do. You help people take control of their gut health and their biology so your energy can come back to normal. You can gain clarity in your everyday life and you make people better. And Rick, I know you've experienced that and we're going to talk about that today. But Kyle, we're excited for you to help us learn how to have more energy and more clarity as crazy, chaotic moms.
Yes, I'm excited to be on. Thank you guys for having me. We got to start with getting rid of the Diet Coke, but we'll get to that point. But yeah, I basically made it my mission I view the body as like a complex machine. So the more we can fix each system instead of kind of breaking it down into one symptom at a time, the better our health can be. So I'm excited to educate as many people as I can today.
This episode of From Nine to Mom is brought to you by Local Social Club. Local Social Club is a kids' snapback hat brand started by two New England moms who couldn't find hats for their toddler boys that felt like their style. Everything felt too childish or gimmicky. Out of that frustration, they started designing snapback hats inspired by their husband's favorite hats, just scaled down for kids. From there, Local Social Club was born. With a classic New England feel and thoughtful details like soft interior linings, adjustable snaps, and signature roping, these snapbacks are made for kids' everyday lives. Use the code FNTM to get 20% off your first order.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we wanted to kind of start with when Danielle and I were putting questions together, we obviously want to talk more about gut health and how it impacts sleep or that, but we kind of wanted to go to start. Why does everything feel harder once you become a mom pertaining to the gut health and sleep and that type of thing?
Yeah. So first I'm going to break down what the gut is a little bit, just so you can get a kind of an analogy as we move forward, because I'll keep bouncing back and forth to the idea. So the gut is, everyone just thinks it's the stomach, and that's all we think of. Oh, my stomach hurts, tummy ache. But it's really a 25-foot long tube that's very complex. And the easiest way to explain it is like a garden. So it's a robust garden that lives inside of us that either flourishes with the good bacteria or it can really wreak havoc on our system with the bad bacteria. And those are the weeds. So think of a garden. If we have a bunch of flowers, robust rainforest, diversity, you're going to be in pretty good health. And if we have a lot of the bad bugs taking over, we're going to see a dried out, weedy garden, which no one likes to see. So that's the best way to see the gut. Unfortunately, if things are going well, we got, the nutrition status is really good. The vitamins are converting. We're hydrated. Things are moving smoothly. We should be having a bowel movement every day. And if things are going bad, we see all sorts of stuff from weight gain, fatigue, sleep issues, whole combination of things that can happen. But that's the kind of where I want to start, just to give you an idea of what's going on down there. It's not just the stomach.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to talk about as moms, especially in early motherhood, like sleep deprivation, stress, a lot of people getting back into their work and switching routines so often. And you talk about like, are you hydrated? Like
No.
the answer is pretty much always no.
No. Diet Coke.
Yeah, right. As Danielle takes another sip. But like, I guess let's dive into too, like the gut health specifically for women. Like, how does that kind of tie into feeling? I feel like everyone always is like, I'm bloated.
Yeah.
Every single one of my mom friends is saying that.
Yeah.
And like, what does that really mean?
Yeah. So there's a lot to that. But for moms, we're creatures that live on rhythms and cycles. And unfortunately, motherhood destroys every rhythm and cycle you could possibly have. The sleep goes away, the gut rhythm goes away, the hormones are all out of whack. So it causes a lot of problems within the gut. Bloating is really like a symptom of something. It's kind of a signal, like something's going on within the gut, whether it's constant stress that causes a speed up or slow down of the gut. So you could have constipation, diarrhea, or there's something else going on where we're eating, running on goldfish and maybe coffee and Diet Cokes all day, and you never get a full meal in, and that causes stress on the system too.
Right.
Yeah, I'm laughing at what you just said because we actually recently posted a reel and it's gotten like the most traction of any reel we've done in like a few months. And it's about how they say you should just feed the kids what you're eating, but it's like throwing chips and Oreos and a cheese stick and like the worst foods you could possibly imagine because you're literally eating like scraps of what you should be. And I think, that's one of the things that you see. And I think this goes for men and women after you have kids, honestly, because everyone's messed up and you're all fighting to
Yeah.
survive with the chaos and the craziness. And I'm going a little off like the beaten path here. What is your suggestion to people like us? Like, how do we get started when there's just so much chaos? Like, what's the best thing to do?
Yeah, the best thing I think is getting back to the basics, which sounds really simple. But for moms, we got to find little snippets of time, whether it's first thing in the morning after the kids go to bed or whatever it may be, to be a little bit selfish with our time. So we got to take that 5 to 10 minutes to do some breath work, or maybe it's a YouTube yoga session or walk on the treadmill, whatever it may be, which sounds like an easy answer, but we got to be a little bit selfish with the time. Unfortunately, moms have females in general have what's called caregiver syndrome, where we put the needs of everyone else in the world before the needs of themselves, whether it's the kid, the husband, cleaning the house, running to an appointment, soccer practice, whatever it is. We give our time away all day long, and we need to take just 10 minutes to ourselves so we can give the rest of the day away. That's my best advice to being able to get back onto a beaten path getting started, because this consistency, it's not oh, we'll do this and you're going to be great. It's you got to do the little things right every day, and things start to turn around for you.
Well,
Yeah.
since you're an expert, we're going to keep that. Like, we're going to use that as the reason for, so
Yeah,
anybody
right.
can just replay that portion to your spouse, your kids, your boss.
Everyone.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Say like, Kyle said, I need this. So I'm going to go do some yoga.
Please leave me alone.
No husband's coming to see me, that's for sure.
But I think too, like something we have to talk about too is like stress. And I think one of the notes that we had put on there, like how does stress and cortisol levels affect your gut?
Yeah. So one thing, back to the garden analogy, the garden's also surrounded, I didn't get into this, by like think of a screen door on your back door porch or your garage door. That screen door lets things in and out. And if it's working well, we let in the water, the nutrients that we need to survive. And if it's not working well, we allow in, say there's little rips in the little screen holes and stuff. You let in some bacteria, undigested food, viruses. Those cause little inflammation throughout the body. And the reason cortisol really screws us up is cortisol creates those little tiny holes in the gut lining or the screen door, for instance, that allows that stuff to spill in. And people that are struggling in health, it's really from living with low grade inflammation. So that's why you get a blood test and everything looks great, but we don't look at the low grade inflammation that's going on, that's causing the brain fog. You're not sleeping more than 4 hours, I'm sure, in motherhood. And it just causes stress over time. So good stress is like, if we were running away back in the day from a bear or something, we wanted cortisol to spike high, but moms live with cortisol high from the minute they wake up to the minute they go to bed. So those constant high points are what's causing a whole bunch of issues with female hormones.
Yeah. And it's interesting you talk about blood work. So I feel like, and I'm going to just throw a random thing out. So like, I remember after I had my second kid, I had talked to my OBGYN and I, gave her some of the symptoms I was experiencing as my like menstrual cycle came back and that. And the first thing she did was like, we need to send you for blood work and we're going to get your thyroid checked. And like, that's as far as it went. Everything was normal. So then like, there was nothing else at that point. And I know
Yeah.
at Club Gevity, you kind of dive into some of that. So I want you to start kind of going into how you kind of
Yes.
start when you work with somebody. What does that starting point look like?
Yeah, I believe, unfortunately, the medical system's a lot of guessing, a lot of like, oh, maybe it's this, try this. So my real goal is to take the guesswork out of it and collect the data before I start with anybody. I do a full at-home blood test, so it's going to test a little bit more than what they want to test that's just free with insurance companies. So it's going to look at the inflammation status, your thyroid function, all the stuff in one comprehensive at-home test. But I also give out the stool test, which kind of looks at everything that's going on in the microbiome, the garden that we talked about earlier, to really pinpoint what's overgrown, what's not doing too well, what do we need to fix. And then the last part that I do for a lot of my in-person clients is a genetic methylation test, it's called. It's only one time you got to take it, and it looks at your DNA and tells us what nutrients are you not able to convert to the usable form inside the body, which is really important. So if you can't convert, say, folic acid, which is in every kid's food that you can possibly think of right now. If you look at the back of any cracker, it's going to say enriched or bleached flour. And those, for 50% of Americans, can't convert that to the usable form, folic acid, that is. And that causes a whole bunch of problems within kids, from behavioral issues to mood problems and I went a little off path there, but that's the
No,
main
that's
point, is getting the
honestly, that's
data.
perfect because we want to talk about that too, because it's something I feel like we don't talk about a lot, but we get a lot of ads right now, right? It's like a bunch of ads for these vitamins and things that you can give your kids to fix their behavior. Because I think everybody's starting to recognize that like the body is a more, I love the garden analogy. Like I would never think of like my intestine as a garden, but now that I do, I want to treat it like a delicate garden a little more. So, but we get all these things. Everyone's recognizing that like you heal yourself a lot of times from the inside out, but they don't know how to fix it. So I've gone down the path of buying the gummies or the supplements or
Yeah.
whatever, and it just being a huge waste of money because you recognize it, but we don't know how to fix it. So can you go into like a little bit? I would have never thought about the fact that I'm giving them more folic acid that they can't digest. Like, when do you know it's time? What's the right age to like get kids involved in this process?
Yeah, yeah, there's no like specific right age, but even the microbiome test can be given to even newborn babies. It's just looking at their stool. It's just a little probe that you do at home, send it into the lab, and it'll give us a complete analysis of what's going on inside of
Okay,
their
how
microbiome,
helpful
inside
would
of the
that have
garden.
been with Jack? Like, think
My
about
gosh.
it.
Well, so Kyle, you don't know the whole background, but so my firstborn, we had a terrible time. Both my kids were formula fed. And my oldest, he was born just over a month early. He wasn't fully developed with everything. We ended up testing him for allergies. He was having like terrible reactions to every formula I could give this kid. We were like, that by the time we got to a year and we could switch him to like whole milk, I was like, thank God, because I can't keep switching this poor kid on formulas or like any, with that. And we went hypoallergenic. I was on like, I think at one point I had like some goat's milk. I don't even know. And I know that that's a whole nother ball game talking about formula and that, but even still, like he has never done well with dairy. He can tolerate it, but it's not to the point that I've gotten him retested for that. But at this point now, I have a 2 and 4-year-old that want to eat chicken nuggets. It's like a miracle to get them to eat a vegetable.
My son just told me he wants to be a vegetarian. I don't know what to do. He won't eat anything.
But it's so hard. So I think it's like, what are some of the things we can focus on for the kids, whether it's food that are really helpful for their gut health?
Yeah, so it's tough. Kids, obviously, they're kind of like sponges. So they're a product of what the parents are doing. And obviously, we talked about it earlier. Mothers are on the run all the time, or even fathers too. You're just grabbing and going. You don't have much time to go home, make the dinner, go to work, do all that stuff. A lot of the processed food kind of wreaks havoc on the garden. Over time, those bad bugs, those weeds, they want processed foods because that's what they run on. So it kind of pings for more processed food. And we lose our palate for those vegetables that are feeding the
So
good
that's
bugs.
true. Like your body's literally like the little kid's body saying, like, I need, just like ours is, I need this Diet Coke right now because
Yeah.
that's what my body's creating, even though I know it's not good.
Yeah, it's interesting. We don't think of it this way, but we don't eat to feed ourselves. We eat to feed those bugs inside of our garden. So anything we eat, the bugs break down. So if it's the bad bugs that we're having overgrown in there, they might crave sugar. They're going to ping the brain to eat sugar. So we're not actually eating just to feed ourselves. We're eating to feed those little trillion microbes inside the gut. So if
You got
they're
pests in the
overrun,
garden.
yeah, you got pests. You got to clean them out. But that's what we do. We look at the data, that what's going on there, and then we put you on a plan to fix it. There's no guesswork involved. We find exactly what's going on and go after that.
And
Even Eric.
I don't know if this is relevant, but Kyle, remember we were talking about when the baby is born, the way
Yeah.
that it gets its bacteria or from the mother and things like that. So I don't know if you want
Yeah.
to talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the way baby is born is like huge into creating the initial microbiome. Unfortunately, some C-sections are necessary, but going through the birth canal is the first microbiome that the baby gets inoculated with. So it gives it all the bacteria that it goes down the canal with, is all the first of the good bugs that are in your gut.
Interesting.
So that's how we get an initial inoculation of it. And then from the mother's breast milk, so hopefully you're breastfeeding if you can, is what are those prebiotics, which are like the fibers and stuff that feed those good bugs. So either one of those is thrown off, whether you have to, C-section and then, formula fed, the microbiome that's developed from 1 year old to 3 years old is really not where we want it to be, not optimal. So there's a lot of things that we can supplement with. You talked about formula a little bit. The formula industry is destroying kids, unfortunately, just filling them with a bunch of junk that's in there, emulsifiers, seed oils, stuff that's just inflaming the system. And we're already kind of seeing the problems with it, but it's going to continue to see behavioral problems, mood disorders, all sorts of things that are showing up later in the kid's life because we never developed the gut in the proper way when they were first born.
And from experience with my granddaughters, we had to get a specific formula that was brought in from like Sweden or somewhere, right? Because of all the formula that was made here, they weren't able to tolerate. And, unfortunately, you go through with the shortages of that and they're not coming out and you have to run to Walmart and make sure that you're able to get these, and you feel guilty buying 5 of them when someone's coming in for the same thing, but, the formulas that are here are, not really good for the babies.
They're not good. And if they are, it's a little overwhelming when you're in the aisle, and it's more expensive. The ones that are, organic have less of the toxins and stuff in them, but, you're already on a tight budget when you're a parent. Having to try to put those into the routine too it's not very sustainable.
Yeah.
It's funny that Rick said that because Catie, I remember going and like shopping here trying to find. And at one point I told you to buy formula. I don't know if it was from Sweden, but my friend was buying formula overseas.
Well, a lot of people buy the Bobby formula, which is from overseas. And I kind of shut that off from my brain now that I'm done with it. I'm like, I don't ever want to look at formula ever again because I had done that. And that was, what we were going through at the time. But we went through when all the manufacturing here had the shortage right as COVID was happening. And I had Danielle down in Targets trying to find the one formula that Jack could have at the time because I had a prescription for it. Actually was getting it from behind the counter and they just told me all of a sudden, yeah, we can't fill that. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do? They keep 1 or 2 stocked in most grocery stores. And that was the only one that like he was doing well with at the time. And it just is so hectic, but it's a really good point of like not ignoring those things when you have a formula fed baby. Like you have to be really aware of the signals of them not tolerating it, issues with their gut. I mean, as I was doing the formula feeding, I was having to supplement with probiotics, prebiotics, whichever one.
Yep. Both,
and
probably,
I was supplementing with both all day. I'm like, I have 10 things to give this poor kid to make sure that he can just
they're
poop.
okay. Yeah. And I had one, I didn't make enough milk for Colton, but Daisy would only drink breast milk. And I'm thinking about Colton 7 now. And what you said is like hitting me a little bit, like things are showing up later. So like, I wish I had this conversation then because what could I have done for him earlier to like help out? Because I think a lot of things we don't know as parents is what's normal and what's not normal and what could be really actually associated with food. I mean, everyone you talk to has like a kid with focus issues. Like I'm not alone in that. Like and it's like, how much of it is real versus how much is it diet? Like, can you feed it? Can you give us a little more info on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts at early development, what we're feeding in the gut and stuff. But a lot of it too is, as we get into later in life, kids' food is, American normal is feeding a bagel and then at lunch having a piece of pizza and then coming home and having a, frozen meal or something. So the nutrition there is just not very optimal. And what we call blood sugar control, we spike it up, we come back down, we spike it up. And that big roller coaster causes people to be alive for, the hour, that sugar spike, and then crash and have mood problems or they get super sleepy or whatever it is. That roller coaster long term is a disaster for health. So it's just getting back to being able to provide the kid with some kind of nutritional thing. And sometimes you might have to trick them, in the morning, add something to the oatmeal or whatever it may be to get them to get the nutrition they need in. But I think it's a lot of it is the parents got to try to make a change too. Because kids, they see you eating a grilled chicken instead of fried chicken all the time, and maybe they want to switch over to eating the grilled chicken, or hopefully they do, or they don't have an option because that's all they're eating. But whatever it may be.
Hey,
well, what's your thought on that too? Like you eat what you get, like, but then they're hungry. So, do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, try to push as much healthy fat like as you can and protein. So those 2 things alone are going to keep the child satisfied in terms of not being hungry. And the more we push carbohydrates, think your pastas, your bagels, your breads, whatever, we're going to get hungry within an hour or 2 right afterwards. So try to push that. And for snacks, I love, like, I know a lot of kids probably have gone away from having nuts and seeds, but your almonds, your seeds, all that have a good fat protein complex in there. So that's really good for them. And then just look at the back of the label on there. If it says fortified or enriched, like I was talking about earlier, they're gonna have major issues with those. So try to get those out. And it's hard to do, but there's a lot. We have Wegmans. We're thankful up here. We got quite the grocery store. I don't know
Yeah, you
what's
guys are
down.
lucky. We're getting one here.
Oh, you are getting one. Okay, great.
Yep.
But they have a whole section. Oh, they have a whole section that's like your fact that we have a healthy food section in a grocery store tells you a lot about what's going on. But there's a lot of snacks that you can change out that have just as good taste, that have a lot more nutritional value for them.
Kyle, we may need you, if you don't already have this resource, to do a like side by side, like replace this with this, replace this with this, because I think that's like the biggest thing that we have our go-tos that our kids love. And they look at the packaging, it's the dumbest thing, but they look at I've tried to buy healthier versions of like gummy snacks, and my kids are like, I don't like those ones. I'm like, you didn't even try them there. They're not in the right color
The gummy
package.
situation is always insane because you look at, and I hate to even say this, so I hope I don't think they listen, but my in-laws they go to the candy store with my kids and they come home and I'm like, the amount of dye in these foods that they're coming home with. And I'm like, I want grandma and grandpa to have their moment and do that. But then we got to a point a few weeks ago, I was like, we need to stop. Like I am noticing his behavior, right? Like I want him to be able to have a treat, of course, but like weekly, like, can we have it like once a month, maybe, where it's something like that? Like, I'm all for like a little dum-dum as a treat, like to give them, focus on what we need to. But yeah, like trying to make healthier decisions for them with the snacks is so hard. And then you get into the price point of half of it, right? Like you start looking at the decisions people have to make because of the price is often.
America definitely makes it easier to eat poorly than to eat healthy.
Yeah.
We market what we call the SAD diet, the standard American diet. It's just ridiculous. Every kid show in America has all the bad things that you don't want them to eat, but that, obviously they see it all day. So they're going to reach for that at the grocery store over some healthy option in a different aisle because the package doesn't look as pretty. That's for sure.
Right. It doesn't have Spider-Man on the gummy package.
Yeah. Can't have that.
That's literally sometimes what it is. They want
I feel like I genuinely could ask you a million questions about kids. Like we might have to do a follow-up, but I do want to get to one thing that's actually like not on the sheet that I like or our thought process that I want to know. All of us as we're getting older, doesn't matter what age you are. Catie was a soccer athlete. I was I was a dancer. Like it's not just like our guts, like it's our joints and all those things. So I was eating with dinner last night with a bunch of girlfriends who were all athletes, and one of them sprained their foot, the other one, whole thing. How connected is your gut to like healing like that part of your body?
Yeah, so they call the gut the second brain, and there's an old saying, well, all disease begins in the gut. Most things happen because of the gut's a little bit out of whack first, and you might not notice it. You might be still having normal gut things, but down the line, that's why I talk about the body being a complex machine. All the systems have to work together. So if the gut starts having a little bit of what we call leaky gut, where it's going through that screen door and it's leaking inflammation into it, it gets to the joints. That's what we call arthritis. It's inflammation of the joints. You could have deficiencies in certain vitamins and nutrients. So, there's precursors to hormones, for instance, is vitamin D. So if we're super low in vitamin D, we can throw off all sorts of the hormone cycle. So it really plays a big role into the rest of the body. That's why I really target that as, phase one when I start any client. We're going to go after the gut, whether they think they have something or they don't think they have anything. We're going to target it for sure. But it plays downstream to the whole rest of the body. We got to figure out the source of what's going on, the root cause of why, your joints inflamed or you're gaining weight uncontrollably, but you're eating, pita chips and hummus for lunch and somehow you're gaining weight. It's just a signal that something's going on. We got to find it. And that's kind of the whole goal of the program at Club Gevity.
And I have another question that I thought of, and we didn't prep you with it, but I just want to get your opinion on it. It's such a hot Ozempic, GLP-1s,
Okay.
everyone's like, it's the hottest topic right now. And I feel like I'm getting ads for it constantly on my Instagram. And I feel like they're attacking moms of like, hey, use these as a quick fix to like get your body back. What's your opinion on those types of things?
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in any kind of quick fix. It's just in reality, they never really are a quick fix, right? But I think it was good intention being created. It was started as a type 2 diabetic drug. So people that were, extremely overweight or they're having troubles, complications with type 2 diabetic, it lowered their insulin levels, which helped them lose the weight quick. And then it became available to everybody. And now we're losing weight. Everyone's looking skinny. Everybody's doing great. And unfortunately, what it's doing is it starves you basically, right? You eat one meal a day. It lowers your insulin, which is the blood sugar that we talked about, the roller coaster. But really, it's stripping muscle mass from the body because the body still eats some to function somewhere. You might not be bringing the calories into the body, but instead it's breaking down your muscle tissue. And then, you lose the weight. But when you go off the drug, if you ever heard stories of anybody going off the drug, they blow up after the fact because they have no muscle mass. Muscle is like a sponge for glucose blood sugar. It helps us regulate that. So if you go off of it and you have no muscle, as soon as you eat some stuff again, you're going to blow right back up. So I don't think it's a great solution. I understand that we, as a society, think female have to be this perfect shape, especially, guys had kids, I got to get back to the perfect shape, but it's really not sustainable long term, I don't think.
And I think people who are doing like it to, like, I don't want to blow up his spot, but someone very close to me was on the border of type 2 diabetes, and they gave him the like that, and it does like when it's used for what it's intended for, but he was told very specifically, like, you need to lift weights, you need to work out, otherwise like this could be negative. So I think it's also like the idea of like nothing in itself. I remember I call it fat camp. This sounds funny, but when I moved to Charlotte, I gained 20 pounds. Food here was so good, like eating everything. And I did this thing that I called fat camp. And basically I ate the right foods, like what you're talking about, Kyle, like nothing processed, big meals, but very thought out. And I worked out 5 times a week and I lost 26 pounds in 6 weeks, just like, and I remember sitting there, I felt amazing. I was working at Targets like 20 hours a day and I still had energy. And I was like, there is no substitute for like doing it the right way. Like I'd never done it the right way. Like there's no substitute to this. And I'll never forget that feeling. But I think we get so far away from it in the overwhelm of what we talked about this whole time. Like, now, like we're working moms, we're managing like relationships, friendships, our kids, our jobs, career shifts. And then your kids start having emotional issues or like regulation stuff. And you're trying to figure that out. And to think that it could all be fixed potentially just by like, it seems like overwhelming to fix everything in your life and make it all healthy. But if you did that, how much less overwhelm we would all have because our bodies would be performing the way they're meant to perform. It's kind of crazy to think about.
I mean, I can honestly say that from when we took the blood test for the first time and you really saw what the root cause of the issues are, instead of, when you go to the doctor, they want to treat you. They don't want to fix what it is. And when you were able to go in and really see, okay, this is out of range and this is could potentially be affecting this. And then you start regulating some of those things and then you start seeing yourself feeling better. It all starts with the blood test that Kyle gives to give clarity to what you can be feeling.
Yeah. And I feel like not a lot of people are doing that. I'm not seeing as much, like I haven't heard of how your process to it. Do you want to elaborate more on your process from the blood work and then how you kind of continue working with people from there?
Yeah, it's relatively new, I'd say. So I'm not licensed to practice medicine. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I treat clients. I don't treat clients. I see clients and provide advice, health optimization advice. But no one really wants to do that territory. They want to be a trainer or they want to, let them deal with it at the doctors. And I found that most people are just uneducated on what even is good and what isn't good. We have, like we talked about earlier, there's just a million things being thrown at you on social media, like do this, do that, the fad diet, try this wearable, try this, try that. And if we don't get back to just the basic foundation things of eating well, getting some type of movement in, dealing with stress in some type of way, it's very hard. So that's why I kind of created this. And I start with collection. So I collect the data that we talked about earlier, and then we start to optimize each system as a whole. So instead of, you go to the doctor, you go to the GI doctor, then you go to the arthritis doctor, you go to the skin doctors, there's a doctor for everything. Instead, we kind of optimize each system as a whole. So we fix all the things that were low inside the blood and the stool test. Anything that marked in the red, we're going to get it back to the green. And then we design up specific program for you. So whether it's a nutritional, exercise, mobility, whatever it may be, I kind of formulate it based on your schedules. I work with a lot of females that are all over the place. And, the first thing they always tell me is I don't have the time. And I understand that it's crazy, but I look at their screen time as the number one thing. It's-
Good
I
for you.
usually see, I usually see the TikTok or Instagram or something up there. And, if you really do dive into it, you're going to have 45 to an hour and a half of one of those on there. And if you can just delegate 30 minutes of that to getting into some kind of movement or even just, stress reduction techniques, you'll really see a major shift in your health. So that's basically what the program is. I provide everything too. So I provide the supplements that you may need once we find the data. I provide all the guidelines in terms of nutrition, how to eat. I teach you how to do it. I break it down as simple as the garden kind of analogy. I'm not the best drawer, so my whiteboard skills when they're in person with me are not great, but they get the point. It makes it a little bit more, personalized to them instead of going into the doctors and getting you got some acronym, IBS, you got IBD, you got the GERD. No one knows what the hell that is, but
No, and they're
they
very
tell you it anyway.
unclear.
Yeah.
It's like I got diagnosed at 22 with IBS and I really just had a gluten intolerance. Like it was gone.
Right.
But no one bothered to I took an allergy test. I didn't pop for wheat. So they were like, you're fine. But it really, I had to do all this research to figure out that was it. So I feel like what you're offering is such a holistic approach that we don't,
Yeah.
and then you do teach, you help people with the workout portion of it as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just kind of started. So I've kind of moved the program online and in person. So I kind of set it up that way because I was only being able to reach, the people that I can see in person. And my time, obviously, in person's a little limited. My wife would get very upset if I was there for more than the 60 hours that I'm already there. So I had to move it online. A lot of people's issues can be solved if I just guide them through it. They have direct access to me one-on-one. Intimate conversations. No one likes to talk about poop or hormones or whatever's going on. But so I've recently moved it online, so there's a remote option there, so I can reach more and more people. But yeah, the people that come in person with me, the more private clients, they get everything. They get the whole online idea of the gut, the blood, the DNA, but they also get the 2 days a week, 3 days a week of training. They get the sauna, the cold plunge, the whole full shebang of how to optimize health.
But even from a remote perspective, you would still be able to tell us what kind of workouts we should be doing and things of that nature, right? For our body.
Yeah. So right now it's on a dashboard. Eventually it'll be moving to a whole full-blown app that gives you the full guideline of what workout plan to have. It'll break it into phases. And it's really just kind of developed around what your schedule looks like. I actually ask a million questions before we get started, which could be annoying, but I got to be able to personalize it to you because if we're not consistent on it, you're never going to stay with it. So we got to be able to make it as true to your routine as we can.
Well, and obviously we're going to share your resources because I think everything we've talked about today is so relevant to not just working moms, any human being at this point that's alive, but especially for working moms. So we'll make sure that we share all your resources and get everything out there because there's so much more to learn. You just said a cold plunge. You just opened. I'm kind of buying into the hype. Is it worth it?
Right.
Does it make that big of a difference?
Yeah, I love it as a tool, but I wouldn't say it's the number one thing to start with. There's phases to it.
So just don't go jump in a tub of ice isn't going to cure me. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, that's what we love to do. It's okay, we'll jump to this idea, this idea, this idea. It's all right, you're having you're having your Diet Coke and your McDonald's. We got to get back to those first, and then we can jump in the cold plunge.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that we link how to get in touch with Kyle if you're interested in learning more. If you have questions, feel free to submit them. But I think for this episode, it's time for us to clock out and clock back in to the 9 to 5. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.